You will need a fairly small brush. So what we need to do is, if you remember how we did our silver birch tree, we were sort of rolling our brush on its side and we were leaving out gaps. And we've got these little gappy bits. Can you see these little gappy bits? And this is what we want to copy in our Christmas tree. We want to have little gaps so it sparkles rather than a solid shape. All right, let's just grab a green that looks a bit Christmassy. It's entirely up to you. And as I say, if you get your green from your tube and it looks a bit artificial, kill the brightness with a bit of blue, or as I say, a bit of red, so it's a more natural looking green. You want to have perhaps some of it that looks a bit turquoisey. So we're looking for, because we're thinking about pine needles, aren't we? So we're going to have perhaps some of it that looks a bit sort of jadey looking, okay, and perhaps a bit that's a bit more lighter, so it could be a bit more sap greenish. So once you've got some different greens on your plate, so we're looking for a triangle shape, and we're looking to work fairly light at the top. So I'm going to pick up my colour, okay, and I'm going to start at the top with one little mark down, then a left and a right, and a left and a right, and I'm going at a slight crisscross, slight crisscross. Just break that bit up the top, crisscross. Can you see it quite quickly? It can start to look like a tree. So I'm starting to go quite shallow. So I'm flicking out, and then I'm going in. So you can, as it's starting to get wider, okay, we can say, right, I'm going to hold my brush quite flat against the surface, and I'm just going to pull into the center. Okay, and I'm now just going to do a bit of a random sort of beginning to hold it quite flat. You could flick it up slightly, but what I'm trying to do is to have some sort of random flicking in and flicking out of shapes, okay, because we're trying to suggest this gappiness between our tree. Can you see I'm always keeping gaps? And then some areas you can dot in a bit of a patch of a darker colour. Okay, there we are, look. Every now and then, and now it's starting to catch our eye and thinking, oh yes, that's beginning to look quite pretty. And I say, okay, well now I'm gonna wiggle in perhaps another patch down here, and I'm just beginning to dot sort of shallow X's, shallow ziggy-zaggy bits in a random dotted fashion. Okay. As long as we've got a gap, you can even start to roll it a little bit now. Okay, according to how big we want the tree to go. Okay. So, and we can you could begin to change if you've got more time. I mean, you could even start to change the color a little bit more if you wanted to. Okay. Go back a bit. I'm rushing. You could spend more time at doing this, but I'm hoping you'll see the connection between these two. The main thing is to have a gap, and it's sort of wiggly, slight ziggy-zaggy bits, and then occasionally, every now and then, you could just do a little dot or a little fleck. Okay. Now, as it starts to get towards the bottom, if you notice here, just like a tree, I will say we're going to, these at the top, they're pointing up, they're fanning out, and then as they're getting down towards the bottom, they're flicking down. They're flicking down. So for this tree, when we decide, okay, we want this tree to start to point down, I'm now pointing down, and then I can start to do some wiggly bits. Okay. So I'm now pulling it, and I'm beginning to pull it down. Okay. Okay, and you can obviously keep going down with your tree until you're happy with it. And as I say, if you occasionally dot a dark bit in every now and then, because the tree is going to be heavier and thicker at the bottom. Okay. And we're beginning to get a nice tree flicking down. There we go. So we sort of, and then I decided, right, okay, I'm going to have a base. That one's purple, but let's just, I don't know, let's just make ours red. Make it Christmassy. We've got our dark berry colours on our plate, so let's just have it a nice red colour. You could just have it as a brown bark, and we could put it in a red bucket if you want to. We could do that actually if you want. So there we are. Let's pull this down. Okay, this is the base of our tree. Just done it in pencil, and let's put him in a bucket, shall we? Happy little tree. There we go. Like that. I suppose you could have a bow on the tree if you want, in the bucket if you wanted to. Anyway, let's just do this quickly. So you could either, you've got several options for this bucket. You could have it a flat design, or you could suggest a slight three-dimensional form to it. So if you want to slightly suggest a three-dimensional shape to your Christmas tree, I would wet the center, or whichever side you want to have of the light. We'll probably do it in the middle, but I've wetted it with water, just a smidge, not drowned it, just dampened it a bit. Okay, so I'm just loading up my chisel whisp with bright red paint. That's better. Okay, and then you can just pull it round, look. Now I'm getting a nice, lovely, look, I'm getting a nice sharp edge. I'm just going to twist just upside down, and then I just pull it back on the other side. There we go. Just pull that back, just to tidy that edge up. There we go. And now I've got it sitting in a bucket. And then I can just pick up a bit of sepia. And there's my Christmas tree sitting in a bucket. And then the next step, once this is bone dry, is to mix up your cadmium colours, and then you can start to dot. You've got several options. You can either just say paint some dots in random colours all over your tree, or if you wanted to be a bit more wild, you could splat and shape and splatter colours all over it if you wanted to. So there's another suggestion.